been a while. Thank you and your audience, brother. I appreciate your glorious, illustrious, high-level, educational, intellectual, paradigm-shifting platform.
Indeed. Keys, man, last time I got an opportunity to see you and kick it with you and chop it up with you on a high level was at the Apollo Theater. I want to take this time on my platform to thank you once again for inviting me to New York City, inviting me to the Apollo. I had a magnificent time, and I felt like our interview on stage was just historic, bro. Like, it was amazing, man. So thanks for inviting me out there. I had a great time in New York City, Harlem, where I grew up at. So thank you, my brother.
No, thank you for showing up. It was my opportunity to reciprocate, your initial invitation of having me on your platform when I first came out to Brooklyn, and came out to New York. So it was a no-brainer for me, so I thank you because you did a terrific job on that stage.
Yo, Keys, I don't think you know. I think I was one of the first people with a crown in New York City.
I think you was, because y'all was shooting that music video, and you hit me at the time. And you was like, bro, I need these.
Bro, that was me and Cambada's first song. That's how long it was our first song together. And we're 4 albums in. I wore your crown to the video shoot of our very first song together, my brother. My son wasn't even born yet, and my son is 5. So yeah, that's how, you know what I mean? Like that, that's powerful right there. That's powerful. Definitely appreciate it.
That was beautiful because, at the time I remember thinking about building a brand and, just building a brand based on what I believe in, pushing out those symbols. Coming from the West Coast to the East Coast, it was importing, and it was this 2 cultures meeting, right? As far as the way my consciousness, projected out on the West Coast and the way I seen things. And then I didn't realize how big of a deal was going to be coming from the West Coast to the East Coast wearing the crown in a different style, right? But the reception of it was just amazing, right? And you were one of the first people that initially was like, bro, how much it costs? Send it to me. I need it ASAP. And it was just no barrier. It was just all love.
Indeed. And here we are today, family. We're just following destiny. We're following our path, our life contract. I love talking to you, especially during election season, because I know that you're not compromised, my brother. And I feel like you have a message that the people need to hear, being such a major, it got to feel good to be on a level you are as an influencer and not be compromised and not having to get rid of your integrity, not having to sell your soul, not having to do shit at the P. Diddy parties. Like, what I mean? Like, you ain't had to do none of that shit, but you made it on a level and you brought the information with you to that level unapologetically. So that's a beautiful thing, my brother. I want to commend you in this important season for you to bring this message. And I know the universe needs you, especially at this time. So we're going to have a great night tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start the show out like this. We're going to start it out right. We're going to have a great show tonight. Let me start it out like this. Give me a second. All right. So, Keys. All right, hold up. Just real quick. Hold up, y'all. Let me get this together. All right. Keys, I want to present the name of the show is Project 2025. Media Manipulation and the Rise of the Gods. And we're going to get into exactly what Project 2025 is for the people who don't know. We're going to get into media manipulation as well as the Rise of the Gods. And I want to start the show like this because this is going to, set it off in a certain way that I want you to talk about. Keys, I'm going to read a post, an Instagram post, and I'm going to read a brief article. The article I'm going to read, just a brief article, not long, is about how the Nazis' defense of what they did. They had a just following orders defense in terms of what they did. This was during the Nuremberg trials. Let me read a little bit. I want to see how much I'm going to read. I'm reading a little fast, y'all. In a 1962 letter as a last-ditch effort for clemency, Holocaust organizer Adolf Eichmann wrote that he and others low-level officers were forced to serve as mere instruments, shifting the responsibility for the deaths of millions of Jews to his superiors. And we're not talking about numbers or nothing like that. Focus on the point I'm trying to make. The just following orders defense, made famous in the post-World War II Nuremberg trials, featured heavily in Eichmann's court hearings. But that same year, Stanley Milgram, a Yale University psychologist, conducted a series of famous experiments that tested whether ordinary folks would inflict harm on another person after following orders from an authoritative figure. Shockingly, the results suggested any human was capable of a heart of darkness. Milgram's research tackled whether a person could be coerced into heinously, but new research released Thursday offers one explanation as to why. In particular, acting under orders caused participants to perceive a distance from the outcomes that they themselves cause, said study co-author Patrick Haggard, a cognitive neuroscientist at University College London, in an email. In other words, and I've ended after this, in other words, people actually feel disconnected from their actions when they comply with orders, even though they're the ones committing the act. Now, let me read a post. The ASH experiment. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, family. Excuse me. Otherwise known as the conformity experiments, were a series of studies conducted by psychologist Solomon Asch during the 1950s. They found that people were willing to ignore reality and give incorrect answers in order to conform to the rest of the group. That's your question. I just showed a post, an Instagram post, and I just showed a brief article about the Nuremberg trials from Nazis that was on trial. One was about a Nazi officer who said they were just following orders, and that's why they did what they did. And the psychologist said, when you follow orders, you feel disconnected from committing violence or whatever hate act you commit. The post I put up said, hey, people gave incorrect answers, 19 keys, just to fit in. My question to you, my brother, as being a thought leader in this day and time, 2024, you're teaching the people. You have amazing evidence. You got a book. You're coming out with a book club. You got books up to the ceiling that you can present to us. But keys, a lot of the people don't care about none of that. They don't care about the truth. They don't care about evidence. They don't care about facts. Keys, they want to follow orders and they want to conform. They want to fit in. So I want to know, what is your strategy if they don't want to learn, they know the truth, they're ignoring the truth. Keys, what is your strategy for a person who wants to conform and wants to follow orders? How do you approach a person like that? Because they don't care about your books, my brother.
I think what's interesting in that statement is that it's something that we can all see played out today, right? That there's a such thing as idea of being safe in America that I've been seeing a lot, right? What does a safe black man look like? And there was a scene in the show with the brother from Reading Rainbow. I forget his actual name, but he was the brother that played Kunta Kinte, right?
Yes,
and
sir.
he was speaking to Doc Rivers in that show where Lawrence Fishburne, right, was speaking to him inside the house, and he was explaining how he's had to be this safe black man that even when he's angry, even when there's truth on his mind, even when he wants to speak, he hasn't been able to. And he's had to essentially, repress all of his frustration, repress his words, and repress his truth. So what we do, and what this can make a person seem, especially when you don't have an outlet to express it, somebody to bounce your ideas off of, this can make you feel crazy. And so what we do with high-level conversations is create community to where you now have somebody that is backing up your thoughts. When you sit there and let's say we have a high-level conversation and we introduce all these ideas to people, the first thing people say, like, man, I knew I wasn't crazy. That's the first thing they say, like, damn, I knew I wasn't crazy. Because I can't have this conversation with family. I can't have it with friends. Can't have it with peers. Can't have it at work. So it's the intellectual isolation that we have when we have our thoughts, right? And we want to speak out. But then it's the fear that comes from that to say that, well, I don't want to lose these things. So there's a part of our brain that tells us to assimilate, right, for the social reward because it's the easiest path. You need to speak like these people, think like these people in order to be rewarded. So my method is show and prove. That's the God body way, right? So we first started off with how do we motivate the people? Then it was how do we inspire the people? Then it was how do we educate the people? Then it's, okay, how do we instruct the people? And then ultimately it goes to how do we automate this thing into having a better culture and a better future? Because there will always be some people who will always conform, but they will also conform to you in the same way that they bend over to the status quo, the populist agenda. So when you have people that can back you up, right? You have people that think the way that you do and say, if you step out there, I got you. Then that's when it becomes easier for people to conform to their higher self.
Okay.
Right. So for me, it's all about generating and producing a platform that first allows people, right, a community, right, to be able to conform to their higher self so that when that weak side of themselves is about to say, but I can't do this, but I can't do that, you cutting off that thought, you cutting off that thought. And you saying, wait a minute, if 19 Keys can do it, if Black Magic can do it, you feel me? If these brothers can do it, then I can do it as well. So we're taking the same science that, you know, has been utilized by understanding the psychology of the crowd and the people. And we're saying that, wait a minute, if they used it, then we can do it as well. And everything has to be done in steps. So first we build up the platform. First we build up the present. Now, what is the next thing? So as you talked about in the beginning, what's Project 2025? Now it goes towards, okay, what is our Project 2025? Right? Based on the values that we want, based on the ideas and ideologies that we want to push. And now you can say, oh, wait a minute, there's other people that agree with this. Well, that is my tribe. Because this is tribe season. This is building community and then building the world around that community. Quite frank, the reality that we're going to unite 45 million Black people without us having shared values is impossible. Even though we might have a shared enemy, and that should be enough to connect to be like, that's our enemy. But we're disconnected from having the same enemy because now we have different values, which changes our enemy. So if money is your God, and these brothers trying to teach you about being righteous and being good and being healthy and having enlightenment, all of these different things, they're going to justify all their actions by their highest value, which is money, right? You have to justify your actions by your highest value, which has to be integrity. You know what I'm saying? Knowledge of self, family. So then we look and say, okay, who has the same values? That's who I want to unite with, not just because you Black, you melanated. No, it's because of your mind.
Yes, sir. Indeed. Indeed. So, you know, you talked about having the same values, and I think about I want to talk about Christianity for a second, and the majority, and maybe Islam as well. You know, with what the most honorable Elijah Muhammad brought to this country, and our people going the Islamic direction. Let's just say those two religions, Christianity and Islam, two value systems, versus what we have now, kind of like the wild west of spirituality with the internet, and you could dive into whatever you want, and people are practicing whatever they want and remixing and doing all types of things. And it's a lot of freedom. It's a lot of freedom right now versus the constraint of religion that we had in the 1940s, 50s, 30s, 20s, 70s, whatever. A big problem in our community, 90 Keys, in the Black community, is children being raised by single parent households. Just a mother or just a father. But either or, it's, you know, a lot of our children, they, according to statistics, and a lot of people I know are raising children, or children are being raised by single parent households. My question to you was, we offer a lot of criticism in the era me and you live in right now with the internet, and we have, you know, we have terms like the new age community, the conscious community, you know, all type, the intellectual circuit, thought leaders, all this. Why do you think that it almost seems, Keys, that Christianity and Islam was able to create two-parent households better than the conscious community, better than the intellectual community, better than thought leaders, better than the new age movement, better than all these new movements we got that present to us, that let us know we God, that let us know we things that religion didn't. But it almost seems like the religion that was so controlling, so dictative, so, you know, such authoritative or whatever, they created more of the community-based two-parent households, a lot of children, than we do now. What's your thoughts on that, my brother?
I think that's a very good way that you pose that thought. Because, all right, so if you consider yourself to be Muslim and Christian, what comes in most important is your values, right?
Yeah.
And you have to live according to your value system, right? And what religion does, good religion does, is it creates a system that orders a way of living according to those values. So in both Christianity and Islam, family is going to be high. Of course, there's God and there's family at high order of those structures, right? A man getting with a wife, right? Developing a family, right? And obeying the will of God to do so. So what it does is it provides a protocol and a framework. And if we look at right now, the bigger issues that we have is we have all of these intellectual disagreements today, right? Because we don't have single protocols that we can point to say, okay, well, this is the standard to where we can say things are right and there's wrong. Now, we can modernize the standard based on the times that we live in, but if there's no standard to point to in the first place, then there's no way to measure whether we're going in the right direction or wrong direction. I was talking to Blue Pill earlier, and he was telling me to go look at the Moynihan report. And the Moynihan report was talking about, you know, the black family and the case for national action when it comes to the black family. And it was talking about this pathology. Specifically, it said the tangle of pathology, right? And this was in 1965. And he was speaking on how the black community was going to be affected by having this matriarch, right? And lack of fathers, and how it was going to be disproportionately affected to where this was going to create a strain on leadership in the black family, on the women and the men, right? And more women that's having children, or going to create situations to where it's going to strain the assets. And this is going to further create issues because there's not going to be enough jobs to sustain the growth of population in the black community. And so basically he was arguing that this is going to perpetuate this poverty cycle, right? Now, in his report, he was very much almost blaming the black family. And there was reports that came out like the Black Family and Slavery and Freedom in 1976 that countered his arguments about the black family in the first place. But one thing was that those families, most of them were Christians, so they had conservative values that they would run by, right? Blacks early, right, in American history. Then, of course, you go from the 1930s, you have blacks that take on like Islam and the Nation of Islam and high values within that. Of course, it's going to be family, right? Of course, it's going to be God, sisterhood, brotherhood, respect for each other, treat people how you're supposed to be treated. There's an entire protocol to say whether you're in line or out of line. If you are somebody that comes from, let's say we use the word spiritual, but we actually don't create a baseline for what that means to you and what that means for me. And most people can't even define it once they say they're spiritual, because they believe that there's this idea of being undefined, which for the most part is really chaos without order. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave a breakdown. And he gave us two laws. He said the first law of the universe is motion, right? But the second law was order. And so religion gives order to motion. And without that order, that motion becomes chaos. So right now, our people have a lot of motion, but no order. So how do you put that house in order? You have to order that based on the values, the belief systems, right? Because now you have to have a system of reward and punishment. So we look at success today. What is it measured by, right? I put out a statement, and I was disappointed by how a lot of black men responded to it. And I was saying that all black men need to work out, right? And a lot of brothers that don't want to work out, I guess they was mad at me.
Oh man, damn, Keys. Oh man.
But I was looking at the statistics of black men in America, and we have the worst statistics categorically, specifically in health and mental health. And so I was also on your leisure, and I was talking about how there's a direct correlation right now between the mental health of black men in America and our economic prosperity as well, right? If you can't focus, you're not going to produce a thought, right? If your testosterone and hormone levels are low, you're not going to want to challenge and get the rewards of your own merit to produce economic prosperity and success. So then we would have to take a look at, all right, how do we even grade and measure success in today's time? Because most people will point to success as financially successful, but you can be physically unsuccessful. You can be mentally unsuccessful. So we often now have this thing where the hierarchy is money. So we say, well, if you have the money, you're successful, but we're not looking at it in a holistic sense. This person doesn't have family, right? They don't have honor. right? They are not mentally stable. So psychological wholeness is what's missing when you don't have a vehicle that's a framework to even measure whether you're psychologically whole. The way you operate in society, the way you're able to produce thoughts, the way you're able to get along and operate within your community, the value that you bring to your community. We have lost knowledge of self, so that